Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to the very first serious Grand Finals of 2025. What I've got for you today is a best of 9 series of top level StarCraft 2, where the winner takes home the lion's share of $15,000. Spotting right here in the top left hand corner, even though Zerg across the board seems to be struggling more so than they have in the last couple years. This man is standing the test of time. We're looking at none other than Serral's main hatchery. Of course, it's a serious StarCraft tournament. There's serious money on the line. He basically skips all of the online cups unless there's a good chunk of change on the yeah, and this is when he decides once more to show us that he is amongst the very best, if not the greatest StarCraft 2 player ever. His opponent, though, the #1 Protoss player as far as tournament results go, from South Korea, we're looking at none other than herO's main Nexus. Now, I hope you got yourselves a drink, because this is a best of 9. In a best of 9 series, there are no map vetoes. All the players get to do is choose the order in which the maps are getting played. And, well, we're apparently starting off on Neon Violet Square. This is right from the start a very long match. I mean, a very long map rather, so I can imagine we are also here for a long match if the players decide to play it out that way. The thing is, if you are, so say you're Serral, say you're herO, right? You're more than comfortable playing a 30-minute game if you're playing a best of 3. But I don't think that you could go into the game like this, like into a series like this, with that mindset. Because you would be exhausted by the end of this, right? You can't really sit here and play a... Well, I mean, they could, but you don't really want to sit here, more than likely, and play like a 4-hour series. Because mentally, but also physically, StarCraft 2 can be very draining. When you have to play very intense games, I mean, we can already see the APMs going up, although obviously it's a little bit inflated. You have to choose your strategies wisely. So maybe... That's what I'm thinking anyways. We're getting a very large map like Neon Violet Square out of the series early. Maybe we'll play a long game to start the series off and then we transition towards some quicker maps a little bit later on. Because you certainly have to take stamina into consideration. So for a best of 9, of course the first player to win 5 maps is the victor. And yeah, we'll have to see. Now sadly for me, I managed to spoil myself. This series was played as of me casting it about a week ago. And since obviously I try to stay up to date with everything that's going on in StarCraft land, I've managed to spoil myself. So I hope you haven't yet. Oh, I wish I didn't know. Sometimes I wish I could forget, you know, whenever... There's like a bunch of games out there that I would love to replay as well, as if I had never played them before. There's a lot of StarCraft series where sadly I have spoiled myself. But journey before destination as per usual. Now, we're starting off apparently with a Void Ray build. herO hiding the Stargate behind the main mineral line. There is already an Overlord though. Taking a little peek over here at that third base. There are some funky stretch you can go for on Neon Violet Square, where you take this, well, very skinny base, right? Only 4 mineral fields in total. It's just not a whole lot, but you can take it really nice and early. Maybe herO will still be aiming for that in a moment, but with this build, he can probably get away with a Nexus at the more conventional high ground right over here. Void Ray is gonna go ahead and kill that Ovi. Yes, the Overlord will die. Yes, it will not get any further scouting. But also, Serral already got all of the information that he really needs in a situation like this. Oh, we are gonna go for the Nexus in the back. Okay. So this is an interesting base. We don't actually see a lot of players take this expansion early. More often than not, we see bases like this, the one that Serral has taken. Main issue, obviously, with that corner expansion, it's mirrored. It's also on the opposite end of the map. There's only 4 mineral fields in total, rather than the conventional 8. But you can still get a full gas base mining. So it immediately changes up a lot of the strategies that you can go for. In general, Protoss obviously is very gas heavy, especially their late game army. It requires a lot of Vespene, so we'll have to see exactly what herO decides to do with it. For now, though, this is all very normal. It's 1 Void Ray into 1 Oracle. Both of them trying to get some damage done. In the end, we're going to settle for a Revelation and just a Creep Tumor Snipe for now. Okay. I'm assuming we're just going to go Blink. Yeah, Blink together with +1. This is something herO has been consistently doing. I find it curious because in the past, whenever we had anybody going for a Void Ray start, they would pretty much always do it because they're trying to hide something. So usually Void Rays are kind of a mediocre choice, but they're good at staying alive, right? There's obviously not a whole lot of Zerg units that can counter this in the earlier stages of the game. When it comes to base defense, I mean, maybe a Queen push or something like that could shut it down, but most of the Zerg units that can really kill a Void Ray, they come out a little bit later on into the game. So it's really good at keeping you safe. And then on top of it, while it doesn't really do that much in-game harassment, you can deny all scouting from the opponent. So we used to see a lot of Void Ray into Oracle into like very quick second Stargate with, for example, Tempest or a Mothership Rush or some sort of carrier shenanigans, right? That's how we normally saw the Void Ray being played. Apparently we're gonna settle for killing a Gas Geyser here. Kind of a curious... I don't know if I like it, but then again, this unit is gonna lose its effectiveness over the next couple minutes. So maybe you should just aim for something. Okay, Serral decides to go into a Spire now, which is also quite interesting. The reason I bring it up, though, is because herO does this thing where... Now he's adding on additional oracles. Okay. He's going for a Void Ray start, follows it up with an oracle, and then he goes for the most conventional follow-up. So we go Blink together with +1. This is what Protoss players do every single game. So this is just a very macro-focused way to play a Void Ray first. Now, Serral apparently does not want to play every series very long, or every map in this series, rather. Very long, because I don't think he's a huge fan of playing Mutas, but he's taking a bit of a chance. You can't really play the same build order every single game here. So I can imagine Serral's thinking about the series right now, and he's like, yo, you probably are going to go for something weird. It could be Tempest, it could be Carriers. If it's not either of those two, I will go and follow it up with Mutas. At this point, he will see the Blink Stalker, so he will know that it's not going to be quick Carriers. He fires up the +1 melee. And I'm assuming we're going to keep the Spire and maybe make, like, I don't know, 8 or so Mutas here in total. Something along those lines. I mean, you need some larvae here and some more minerals. Probably one batch of Mutas and then a transition back towards something else. Unless he decides to also go into the Spire upgrade. He's likely just going to try and use those units to just maximize damage. And even though there are quite a few oracles out, 3 of them in total now, I actually quite like that herO decided to add more in the mix. He has not seen the Spire. He does not know about the Mutalisks at this point in time, and it's critical for Serral to hide those units, because otherwise Protoss is going to warp in a Photon Cannon, maybe a couple of Stalkers at home too. Creep spread is looking pretty solid. 4th base is taking some damage, although, ooh, did he see those Mutas? He may have seen the tail end of it. Probably not, though, judging by the fact that there is nothing coming up in the main base. Charge is just about to finish up, so this attack here from Protoss is going to get scarier, but I think we need to look at how much damage those Mutalisks can do, because this is something that can end the game really quickly. And this is where, as a Protoss player, your heart sinks, because you just lose so much economy so quick. Nice control here, obviously, by Serral. This is now also forcing the Protoss player's hand. He decides to go a little bit deeper on creep, now goes for the recall. Yeah, this is bad. This is really bad for herO. It's a bit of a risky play by Serral, because obviously if there are units waiting at home, that was a very nice blink right there by herO, but if there are Phoenixes coming, or if there are like a bunch of static defensive structures, or for example a round of, well, Stalkers waiting in the mineral line, then these sort of attacks do nothing, and you've basically wasted 1,000 minerals, 1,000 gas. There are some nice stasis wards over here, and those oracles are dealing about as much damage as the Stalkers have done, but Serral kept the base around. His economy is looking good. There are more Mutas, by the way, which is weird. We don't generally see Serral making more Mutas in these sort of situations, but yeah. Phoenixes are coming. herO is respecting the possibility of this being the case. Obviously, herO plays a lot against Dark, so maybe that's in the back of his mind. Mass Muta is a strategy that Dark likes to employ. But this is a much more aggressive version of Serral than what we normally see. Serral is very much so the Hydra into Lurker into late game type of guy. But again, if you're playing a best of 9, is that really your best weapon of choice? You have to take some chances. So the +1 melee, by the way, was really just for base defense, it seems. It was just to really seal the deal against those Stalkers. Okay, well, Protoss has lost a lot of workers. 22 of them in total, but they still have 4 bases. They still have good income. It's just not as nice as that of Serral. Serral now even aiming for the golden base too. He's been re-spreading the creep tumors here at the front. Now going double upgrades for Lings and Banes. Baneling speed is already done. I don't think you really want to be rolling your Banelings into Stalkers, but against Zealots, for example, or like a High Templar follow-up, they can be absolutely amazing. Hive is coming. More Mutas are also coming. I'm very surprised that we see Serral adding on more Mutalisks here. He's decided to engage a little bit off creep, trying to chase this army way away. I feel like the Mutas are well countered though, right? Like basically all Protoss units here are great against Mutas. Nice movement here though by herO. You're really using the map's terrain here as his advantage. Yeah, Serral's gonna pay the price for some of this. Then again, he's got 86 workers. Second Stargate now coming up together with the Fleet Beacon. herO is trying to, after playing a very aggressive beginning of this game, he's trying to play a much more passive follow-up now. So the plan is to basically go straight into a late-game army. Serral's trying to see if he can prevent that. Standing between these blocks makes it difficult for the Banelings to go in. They can only really run in single file. But is there not just way too much here for the Zerg player? Well, Banelings against clumped-up units can still deal a lot of damage. Serral's real eyes, though, are set, or like the real damage, will likely be set in the mineral line if you can get Banelings over here, where those probes are harvesting. Life would be really good for the finisher. But so far, herO manages to protect that mineral line. Yeah, and that was a really good, effective trade there for the Stalkers. Resources lost-wise, I mean, there's a bunch of Zealots dying in the background, but resources lost-wise, this is not the end of the world here at all for Protoss. Now he's going into carriers. If he gets up to 400 minerals, 400 gas, really? I think we should go for a Mama ship? Apparently we're prioritizing the shields upgrade, which I find a little funky. Here's those random Mutalisks coming in again. herO also a little surprised by them, and Serral actually getting good bits of value. I'm surprised that he made more Mutas. I don't think he's gonna do that multiple times in this series. If he plays Mutas again, I don't think we're gonna see random ones being added into the mix again later on, but I mean, he's going for +1 air weapons. Huh. Alright. Zerglings run in, set off the stasis wards. Great control here by the player from Finland. Probes decide to run away. Keep in mind, +2 melee. No longer one-shots probes. And it hasn't in quite a long time. Now the carriers, though, reveal themselves. Mutas go back into the main to snipe more probes. I mean, keep in mind, the Spire is already done. +1 flyer is coming up. And that is going to be fantastic for Corruptors. Serral didn't know about the late-game transition yet. Maybe he saw the Fleet Beacon or the extra Stargate. But, I mean, Serral's just dominating here. Yeah, it's really hard to really find any flaws in his gameplay so far. He took a chance. So his biggest gamble in this game was building the Spire. herO had 3 Oracles out, but he wasn't scouting for the Spire. He wasn't looking for it. And when Serral finished the units and then sent them across the map via the left side, I mean, that's basically game over. I mean, I feel like herO has not been able to find his footing ever since. Serral playing practically a flawless game. We're going Ultras, though, so there's still a lot of, let's go with throwability in a game like this. But I'm pretty sure Ultras are going to be a good choice here, too. Zerglings now run in. herO using the all-army hotkey a little bit too aggressively, and yeah, he's just bleeding out, man. There's nothing much to do. If I look right here at the units lost tab, resources lost-wise, I mean, this is not a terrible game, I guess, for Protoss. It's just that he's been outmined for basically the last 10 minutes. Serral's getting way more income. He's getting roughly like 2,000 resources a minute more. So you can very easily make up for those ineffective units lost. Mama ship is coming. She'll be here in just a moment. Ultra Cavern will be researching the chitinous plating upgrade too. herO has not been able to really scout for anything. If he knew, he would be starting up Immortals right now. Serral decided to take the game very slowly, and he's actually even adding on additional drones. So apparently we're sitting at 91 workers here in total. I think you kind of want to get rid of the roaches at this point. But maybe don't trade them out needlessly. But they are a little supply inefficient. I'm pretty sure the roaches, any lost roaches, any tanking units right now are going to get replaced with Ultras instead. Corruptors decide to use their caustic spray ability. It's an ability with a pretty long cooldown, but it can very rapidly kill a Nexus. So after a few seconds, the damage really ramps up. And then everything dies. Okay. So herO, he has decided to go for an all-in. This is effectively what we need to win the game with right now as Protoss. And this is a scary army. Corruptors are there. They're going to be good enough at killing the Mama ship and then also the carrier itself. Oh, takes one of the carriers down. God. Dude, playing against Serral has to be the absolute worst. Sometimes I get accused of being a Serral fanboy. Honestly, I'm just a fan of really good StarCraft. And Serral is really just the very best player we've ever seen play this game. He wouldn't call this game flawless. There are some minor mistakes here and there. Ultimately, StarCraft is all about making less mistakes than your opponent, right? Look at this little counterattack. He was predicting that the gold base would be coming up. He's forcing the Protoss right now to warp units in at home. herO still has a good army, and this is technically a winnable game. But, I mean, look at this. These are fully upgraded melee links now. I mean, obviously they're +3 and they have Adrenal. They deal so much damage. Stalkers just melt. Now Ultras are here too. Ultras are a little bit too thick to go in between these blocks. Gotta figure out if you can find an engagement here, I guess. Bunch of Zerglings still left over. They will not win the fight against those Stalkers, but Serral can very quickly replace them. Well, there we go. We do have the cloaking field getting activated, but there are already Overseers in the mix too. Predicting this move as well. Ultras are starting to kill everything on the ground. Serral just reinforcing this with more of the same. herO is holding his own for now. His problem is that he doesn't have a main base anymore. His natural is running very low. He took that third base nice and early, but these mineral fields don't have a lot of juice in them anymore either. The low ground is even starting to run low. Serral's got more expansions. He is rebuilding that gold base too. I do have to hand it to herO though. The way that he's managing this, despite being very far behind for like the better part of 10 minutes, the fact that he's still alive already shows a lot. Honestly though, I think the only way you're gonna win against Serral in a game like this is by outplaying him before it gets to this point. The comeback potential, it effectively is, well, Serral making a gigantic blunder, right? Like, that's really the only way you get back into it. Beautiful game number 1. It's Serral who wins the first map. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on Abyssal Reef. We go from Neon Violet Square to Abyssal Reef from, what, 2019 to like 2015 or so. These are old maps. These maps were brought back in this map pool. And while I'm personally not a fan, I've shared my opinion on it a couple of times. It seems like a lot of people actually really do love these maps. I think as a StarCraft commentator though, when I see a best of 3 and it's like map 1, King's Cove, map 2, Abyssal Reef, map 3, we go to Neon Violet Square. I mean, I like the big maps. I like them every once in a while. And the pro gamers, you can also tell, they really enjoy the maps too. But they are certainly a little bit slow. And I like action-packed games. I like games where there's constant movement all around the map. And honestly, truth be told, that previous game was actually very fast. Both players were playing very quick. It's mostly because of the mutas. But when you see the players going into like Hydra Lurker there, right? And they're basically just playing base defense for like 20 minutes. It can be a little bit slow. Anyways, Abyssal Reef, another big map, another macro map. So we'll have to see what goes on this time around. I'm trying to find mistakes in Serral's play from that previous match. I've been thinking about it for a little bit. I'm not really coming up with anything. I think the biggest quote-unquote mistake, or like the biggest thing that could have gone horribly wrong for him, was going mutas in the first place. There's like 2 minutes or so where you're hiding a structure and you're hiding tech, where the opponent could easily respond if they can figure it out. And since herO didn't figure it out, it worked out really nicely, but you're technically taking a bit of a gamble. And historically, Serral's never really been a big fan of those builds. He's been bringing them in over the last year or two. He's doing more and more of those sorts of plays. And I quite like seeing it, especially in a long series, where you can always lean on your strength to just play a normal macro game later on. I don't mind it at all. I think it's, yeah, it's a nice play to go for. And obviously, being predictable is a terrible thing, right? If you're just doing the same strategy every single time, you're likely gonna get hard countered as well, so mixing in a little bit of variety, keep the Protoss player guessing. I don't mind it. Technically, that, I guess, was quote-unquote the biggest mistake. Ooh, would you look at that, though. We have another gamble play right over here. This time around, though, for the Protoss, herO decides to go straight into a fleet beacon. So this is him saying, yo, bro, please don't attack me anytime soon, because if you attack me, I die. But Serral not really known to be aggressive at this phase in the game. He's just happy playing, base defense and just tower defense for the most part here. Oh, gotta run again. All right. Handful of drones. He wanted to go for a third. Yeah, he's got more energy. Triple stasis, baby. I mean, not the best. I will be honest with you, not the best. But still quite nice, I suppose. That's, by the way, not a good play. This is very much so herO just being a bit of a memester. It's actually kind of interesting. Most of the top tier StarCraft players tend to be jokers, you know? Like when you meet them in person, they're actually very funny and just making silly... Anyways, that was a jokester play right there from herO. It doesn't really make any sense. Going triple stasis ward in the same spot. It's just a waste of energy, but you can, you know, maybe get a little bit of a chuckle out of Serral as well. So we're going for a 5-minute carrier Tempest rush. Is it good? Well, it's really nice if the Zerg player doesn't respond. This is similar to the Spire. When the units are out, when the carrier and the Tempest are out, there's very little Zerg can still do about it. And they're already hitting the battlefield. +1 air is coming up too, so herO is effectively skipping most of the early game and most, if not all, of the mid game. We did go for a seemingly normal start with oracles, but then I decided, you know what? Using these oracles just to be a little bit of a joker, and then to keep my third base around, and we're using all of the economy now to go straight into the good old Skytles. Serral does have an Overseer. He's looking. This is one of those situations, though, where you find out and you don't really know anything. Or at least as far as your reaction goes, there's not really that much you can do about it. There is already a Spire, though, and I think this is Serral saying, yo, you are playing something weird. I haven't seen a Stalker warp in. I haven't seen Adepts. I haven't seen even like an Archon drop follow-up or whatever, right? You're doing something weird, and now, well, turns out it is the right play. So Serral went for an Infestation Pit, a Nidus Network, and then also a Spire. So he's doing a little bit of everything. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what the follow-up is going to be. Tempest now has shown up on the other side of the map, by the way. It's got a couple of kills. It's been hunting down whatever it can hit. Fair enough. Yeah, handful of drones. Bunch of Zerglings going down. Nothing all too weird, though. Normally, you go for these sort of pushes, and this is a bit weird, actually, from herO. We have seen a couple of these double Tempest openers, where, don't lose it. Brenda! Brenda! Whoa! How did she do that? Oh, Brenda actually got kill steal. Okay, well, kill steal right there by the other queen. Susan, she's known for that sort of thing. That was actually super sloppy. Can't believe herO lost all of his stuff there. I mean, he's got like 4 units in total. Is he gonna lose the Nexus now too? Oh, God. Okay. Welp. Yeah, that's really bad. That's... Yeah, that's not good. Saving grace here for herO is that Serral is by no means in a position to end the game anytime soon. But this is the type of stuff that could be the beginning of the end. You know what I mean? Like, again, against Serral, you're not allowed to make a lot of mistakes. That was a very significant blunder. You may make the argument that he killed 10 drones, sure, but this is not really... It's not like you kill 10 drones at minute 4, right? Like, these drones go down when Zerg already has a large economy, so you can very quickly replenish them as well. He's already done so. He's already up to 81 workers. There is a Nidus Worm. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what he does with it. Maybe he wants to bring the queens across. Maybe a little bit of indecisiveness. Maybe he was just preparing for an ultimate late game. But here we go. We're once more puking on bases. This is what I pictured the Corruptor to sound. When they're yeah, puking all over the base. And that's a Nexus down the drain. Now, there are an awful lot of carriers, by the way. There's already 6 carriers. What? There's 2 more just about to pop. We're at 8 carriers at 9 minutes. That's really good. Man, if only he didn't lose that Tempest so sloppily. It's a bit silly. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, but... Serral decides to go for a very aggressive attack. There's already Void Ray speed, and he's pumping 3 of them out at a time. If he can finish the +2 air weapons, that would be amazing. But here's Serral committing to a real big fight. He doesn't really care about winning the air war so much. He mostly just wants to kill the economy. If he can snipe the 4th, that would be big, but we have a lot of flying units here. There's already a 2nd cyber core too, so herO is just about to start booming again when it comes to these late game units. Now, I think this is just barely enough for Serral to break through. There's no Archons on the ground, so that means the Corruptors can actually kind of clump in, or clump up rather, and jump in to snipe whatever they can. +2 is big though. Every single one of those interceptors gets an additional +2 damage from this type of upgrade. And when we have, well, this many carriers, we also have 48 interceptors. All of them get +2 because the interceptor ships, the things that they employ, or deploy rather, they shoot from either side of the little ship. Oh, air no! What? Sorry, I missed it. This was actually the sickest play right here by Serral. Sorry, I backed up like 10-15 seconds. Serral is sending the Corruptors around, and he actually snipes the Cyber Core. This is huge. This is seconds before +2 finishes. Oh no. He doesn't know what he sniped. Although he could click on one of the carriers and figure out that he just finished up the +1 armor as well. So he knows that the +2 got the knight. But he doesn't really need to know. He doesn't really need to know. He just knows that something was researching, and that's all that really matters. Now, lucky here for herO, though, he did keep that base alive. Yeah, he got a pretty decent trade as well. Only 2 carriers have gone down, 6 queens and 12 corruptors. Certainly not the end of the world. And herO is now approaching a maxed out state with like a proper Skytles army. There's the mothership being added into the mix as well. The only thing I'm kind of missing here is High Templar with Storm. herO is kind of going for the, you know, this is like the Gold League max out. The one where you only go for flying units. And I like the idea, but really what makes Skytles really scary is High Templar, or for example, Disruptors, like something that can deal splash damage too. Because in a very weird way, Skytles on its own is actually not even really that strong. The Spellcasters, they are what make it so much more dangerous. There's no... So the problem here is, Serral could throw in a fungal growth, he could parasitic bomb, and then fly all of the Corruptors into these army units. Because normally there's Archons on the ground, there's Storm that would prevent that sort of thing, but none of that here is the case. Serral's going Vipers, he's already got Infestors, I saw a couple of them, yep, running around. He doesn't know, so he is respecting herO enough here to assume that there is some sort of, well, splash damage in this Protoss army too, but none of the flying units here for a Protoss player do any sort of splash. Yeah, this looks like a super scary army. And it really is if there are like 4 High Templar and maybe like 4 Archons with it too. I think those Void Rays are a bit of a waste. The Void Rays, though, with Prismatic Alignment, they do deal bonus damage to armor and stuff, so Corruptors can melt. But this is going to be a bit of a weird fight. Serral, in the meantime, is going for the most sophisticated Zerg army you can make. This is one of those armies that has all the Spellcasters. So he's got Queens, he's got Infestors, he's got Vipers. This is a super difficult army to control. But here we go. This is... Dude, if you're a Protoss player on the ladder, and you are somewhere below like Grandmaster League, I feel like you can win every game with this exact build. As long as you manage to get to like the 9-minute mark, I feel like this is the type of army that is pretty much unlosable. But the problem here obviously is that he's going up against Serral, and Serral is going to be really good at spellcasting. Adrenal Glands finishing. Neural Parasite coming up. A second Spire as well to begin double upgrading. Looks like we did have a few abductions here too. Serral just sniping whatever unit he can find. herO sleeping on the job for just a bit. He never remade that second Cyber Core, by the way. And he never started up additional upgrades. He did eventually finish the +2, I suppose, but now he's got an idle Cybercore. Tectonic Destabilizer's coming up, so that's the Tempest ability here for them to deal additional damage to structures. I mean... yeah, late game PvZ has been looking really good for Protoss, but this is the perfect setup for Serral. I don't think he can really wish for a better spot. He's got all of the upgrades. He's got a ton of Spore Crawlers. He's got all of his Spellcasters already. He's got a good economy. Not an amazing economy. Now I'm going to add Brute Lords in the mix too. By the way, this is an army that is actually very difficult to hotkey properly. So this is Ravager, Ling, Roach. That needs to be on a separate control group. The Queens need to be on a separate control group. The Brute Lords need to be on a separate control group. The Infestors need to be on a separate control group. Maybe the Vipers can go on the control group with the Corruptors and the Overseers. But this is like one of those, like, how do you micro it type of armies. This is one of those, do you secretly have a third hand? Like, how do you control... it doesn't make any sense. Anyways, there are now High Templar out. And the High Templar is really nice to have. What? Hallucinated Colossus to scout? But why? Why are we sending in the sentries too? Huh, alright. Hey, there is a second Cybercore. Wait, was that on the screen previously? Am I losing my mind? I didn't see him building another Cybercore. Was that on... when I was just saying there was no Cybercore, did I literally have my screen sitting on 2 Cybercores? This is only game number 2, Lowko. This is the best of 9 series. Ay, ay, ay. We could be here for another 3 hours. I'm already derping. The derpening has commenced early. Ooh, nice fungal growth right there by Serral, though. It's the fungal growth into corrosive bile combo. Was it these two as well last year at the EWC? I believe so. Remember that huge, well, that huge corrosive bile. He wasn't even targeting it. Anyways, here we go. This is a super scary Protoss army. Serral is prepared for it, but he has a lot of workers still. So his army is strong, but also you gotta take it with a grain of salt. At some point, Zerg definitely wants to drop below the current worker count. This is about a 3 hotkey type of army, by the way, for herO. The Oracles need to be on a separate control group, and so do the High Templar. The rest can sort of be on its, you know, on its own. Microbial Shroud to keep Brenda alive. I mean, Brenda's actually very tanky. Look at Brenda, dude. She's not messing around. In the meantime, we have a couple of units lurking around the site. Yoink, says the Viper. Infestor wanted to go in for a fungal or maybe a neural. Another microbial shroud. Dude. herO's like, yo, bro, let's go and fight. And Serral's like, nope. How about nope? Oh, some more fungal growths. Corrosive bile on the Observer. Okay. herO's starting to carve a bit of a path through all of these structures here, and the Spore Crawlers have gone down. Ultras are now also coming up. Serral's got the ultimate Zerg late game here. Another fungal growth. More corrosive biles. Queens once more stepping forward. I don't know what Serral exactly is hoping for here. Like, I'm trying to think what his best way of engaging is. He's hoping, I guess, that the Protoss here overextends. We do have a bunch of Ultras, but they're not out yet. He's hoping, I guess, for additional upgrades. Great feedbacks right there by herO. Shuts down a lot of those Infestors. Ooh, okay. We do have the Cloak getting activated. Time Warp getting thrown down, too. Ultras get immediately destroyed. And despite having a really bad game across the board, herO got to a phenomenal army. And he's found himself in a really good position here. Yeah, there's a lot of static defense, but it's all on the other side of the map. I mean, I guess you can uproot the units, but these choke points are pretty tight. Corruptors try to see if they can target fire down some units. Serral misclicking on one of them. There's still 5 Templar remaining. I think some of them, yeah, they're getting across the map right now because I only see a single one on the ground here. But now there's fresh storms available. More Corruptors coming up. Serral looking for the perfect opportunity, and is this the opportunity he's been hoping for? Corruptors swoop in, fungal growths go down, Brute Lords come in from the back, Ultras killing everything on the ground before any of those Templar really got rid of all of their energy. Serral gets a phenomenal engagement. I was wondering what he was waiting for, but that was apparently the moment he decided to collapse. Dude, this freaking guy, man. I swear to God, if Serral did not play StarCraft 2, I feel like Zerg would be twice as powerful as it would be. Every time there's a StarCraft balance patch, Zerg gets nerfed. It's been that way since about 2018. I would say that Zerg right now is probably at its weakest it's ever been. Even Serral was struggling for like 2 months. And then he just figures it out. I mean, to be fair, herO was very clumped up. His entire army was in one big ball. So Serral managed to get the perfect wombo combo. herO should not have done that, but he was, I guess, not quite prepared for that sort of thing. My God, dude, Serral, jeez. Just play like Serral. That is... just play like Serral. Okay, well, herO's not out of this game yet. But he once more kind of got outplayed. Look at this. Anyways, he smashed his piggy bank and he managed to afford 6 more carriers. The second mothership, the step mothership, you might say, is coming up as well. Serral is sprinkling Dorito dust all over the floor. You love to see it. Brute Lord's now going to town, though. A lot of probes are going down, too. Ultras, in the meantime, up north. Yeah, Serral's such a monster. Ultras are starting to clear out most of the static defense here, and herO is going to have to evacuate. Once more, we have another big fight. Fungal growth, parasitic bombs, Corruptors swoop in. We need to get Archons underneath, but no Archons to be seen anywhere. Can this fight turn out a bit better for herO? Most of the Corruptors are super low in hit points. Serral, though, is still spreading the majority of them around. Interceptors at this point are mostly gone, too. And he gets another one of those fights. Not as clean as the first one on Creep. But once more, herO seems to be surprised. In the meantime, the Ultras are going in. They've killed the base. Okay, herO, though, is now hoping for an opportunity to go across. Ay, 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 ay. So it's interesting. I've talked to a bunch of the Zerg pros. I have seen a lot of the Zerg pros. They've been very vocal about it across the board. Zerg seems to be in at least the hardest position right now that we have had for a long time. We've even had the top-level pro gamers in some of the matches switch race. That series between Dark and Raynor comes to mind, but we've had it basically across the board. A lot of Zerg players play hyper-aggressive mid-games because they do not want to play late-game against Protoss. And it's mostly because in like 98% of the games that I've seen lately, Protoss just creates a bulldozer army and just walks over the Zerg. Serral, though, seems to have found another way, and this is why I don't want to see balance patches too frequently. Serral has found another way, it seems. Oh, he gets another big fungal for the Zerg army to be effective. Another fungal, another parabomb. Serral just keeps on wombo comboing all this stuff. Most of the units up in the air don't split against this sort of thing very well. Corrosive Biles are going down. Corruptors here in very large numbers, though. They now swoop in as most of the storms are out. Ultras clear up the last of the High Templar. Serral gets another dominating engagement. And this game has just gone from bad to worse for herO. Look at this. I have not seen this before. He taps out. GG. Well, the tone has been set. It seems to me that herO is much better off avoiding the late game. Yes, Protoss late game seems strong, but Serral seems to have found the perfect solution And he showed us that multiple times in the previous 2 games that he is a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so what do we do now? Where do you take this game from here? If you're playing this series now and you're herO, you've been kind of cruising in the late game, going for the bulldozer army, carving your path through the creep and all of the Zerg bases, but evidently it's not working. herO's not really somebody who gets particularly emotional in these sort of moments, but I would be quite frustrated here as herO. Because you know, this is one of those series you go into, you know you're going up against Serral, so you're like, okay, I guess I gotta prepare, right? You gotta make the best of the scenarios, and then you just kind of get smacked around a bunch. Now, herO is obviously one of the very best players we've ever seen in StarCraft. He's very good in these sort of positions, but I do often feel like herO versus Serral is almost like a, not just like skill-wise a difficult one for herO, but also stylistically. herO is somebody who's very good in chaotic situations. When he goes up against Dark, for example, he plays very differently. So it's almost like we have a different player going at it altogether, but he's very good in those like clutch situations to micro out these perfect fights. And against Serral, he never really seems to get in those spots. He's trying to create those opportunities for himself where he's multitasking better than the opponent, but it just seems like he gets shut down at every angle. So you kind of have to come up with a new game plan now in the middle of a series. So what do you do? Well, so far it's going to be double Oracle. I'm assuming at least he's going to change his game plan. He could also just stick to what has worked for him in the past, but if he keeps playing like this every single game, I think Serral is just going to outplay him. That is the simple truth. I mean, there were a lot of sloppy moments in that previous game too. I mean, we had 1 Tempest and like 3 Adepts and a Carrier out, and he lost the Tempest to Queens because it was firing at Queens for like 20 seconds. Right? Like, that was sloppy. That was just, like, there's no better way to really spin that. That was just straight up a mistake. And a very unnecessary one at that one, too. So, maybe herO is thinking, yo, if I just play the same thing again, but I don't make those mistakes, it will go a lot better. That's fair. So we may just see him do the exact same thing again, but Serral has decided to go for a quick Bailing Nest this time around. This is a Bailing Nest long before any sort of +1. There it starts. But it is a quick +1. Or a quick Bailing Nest, rather. Relatively quick +1 as well. Once more, though, Twilight Council together with a Forge. Adepts going in. Not enough Zerglings available yet, but with the Queens, it should be fine. Blink coming up. Do you think it's frustrating if you're like a top-of-the-line Zerg player as well? Like you're a top-of-the-line pro gamer, you're like, okay, well, surely Zerg has got to be overdue for some buffs at some point. And then Serral comes in and he solves it again. Ah, bait it. Zerglings trying to see if they can get the wraparound on these units, and this is once more a perfect engagement for Serral. Oracles get pushed away, Adepts get shut down. Could not be going any better than that. Serral actually recently mentioned that he feels like he doesn't really get much better mechanically, but he spends a lot of time thinking about the game, and he has been improving his strategies a lot. I feel like you can tell. Compared to a month and a half ago, Serral really did seem to be struggling. He was playing the old patch, or at least the strategies that he would play. Now, that was a good stasis ward. He was playing the strategies he used to play, and that just didn't really work anymore, but it seems like he sort of figured it out. Bailing speed coming up. Hydra as well. So this is a very different style now. This is going to be pure Hydraling Bane. Technically, what herO is doing should be really good against this sort of thing. herO just going good old Blink Stalker. This game has slowed down a bit, though, because obviously those Adepts just got murdered. +1 melee at this point is done, too, so the Stalkers definitely do have some potential here, but Lynx can counter them relatively easily. Looks like one of the Stalkers went down. Fourth hatchery is also going to fall, though, as Serral is just accepting it and rebuilding it on the other side. He was actually already preemptively rebuilding it, it seems. Gives up on the hatch just to buy himself more time to get the Hydras out. Templar Archives now coming here for herO, so he wants to go into the Stormy Boys. Okay. Looks like we have a more mid-game focused match. And I like this. Rather than skipping the mid-game entirely, it was a nice attempt by herO. Now we are going all in on the mid-game. So we're going Stalkers with High Templar, probably charge slots as well. Serral's going full Hydraling Bane. No quick infestation pits, no lurker dens, none of that. Size Storm indeed and charge. Very good. And this is a dance. This is very much so a dance. Economically, herO's fine. He's now building a fourth Nexus as well in the far top left. Keep in mind though that Zergling counterattacks are really scary. Good stasis wards. Yeah, +1 melee is already done, so these Zerglings just hit very hard. Stalkers are not achieving nearly as much as they would have liked to. Alternative approach here for herO would have been to go into a bunch of Colossi. Colossi would have been really strong as well. Speed upgrade coming up here for the Hydra. And Banelings are ready to go. Okay. High Templar in the back. They don't have Storm yet. Ooh, Serral doesn't know. I think he could have targeted one of them down, but he decided to give herO the benefit of the doubt. It's finishing here, though. There go the Banelings, too. Careful. The tall grass here is actually quite dangerous. You can't see through that very easily. Zerglings now trying to see if they can hunt down that base. We need more storms. We need more storms. Oh, don't move command. That stasis ward game is so clutch. Perfect movement right there by herO. This is what we need to see, but maybe that fourth is still in trouble. And obviously those stasis units are going to wake up in just a moment. Might be time to morph in an Archon or two as well. High Templar already pre-splitting. Yeah, there we go. One storm? Maybe you can just blink after it. Yep. 19 or 15 probes have still gone down, though. A little dangerous. But herO stabilizes there. Those... Dude. Those Banelings getting stasised just like half a centimeter away from all of those High Templar. That could have been the end of the game, but it turned out to be the perfect play for herO. Now, he may be able to counterattack and actually get a snipe. Yep, this expansion is going to go down. Already, though, the opposite base in the other area of the map has been remade. Big Zergling run by, heading on over towards that expansion in the top left. This expansion still does not have any stack defense on it, which I'm a little bit concerned by. Quick recall here by herO. He cannot afford losing it. Okay. Zerglings try their best. One Templar, I believe, ended up going down. Few Banelings here trying to get lucky. Quite a few of those probes still at low HP. +2 melee now coming up. +1 armor also building here for herO, or researching. Keep in mind, though, that this Zerg economy is relatively weak. Protoss doesn't have a lot of income here either, mostly because he lost all those probes, and maybe he's going to lose some more? No. Well, a couple more, not too many. But this is only 72 workers here for Serral, and these are generally not very cost-efficient armies. The Hydras sort of need to survive, gets another Templar there. But he needs to grab the economical advantage, either by killing the opponent's fourth base, killing probes, or by taking more drones of his own. But so far, he's not really achieving any of those options. Maybe this army, though, can actually get the job done. Bunch of probes will once more go down. Stalkers are starting to run low. Yeah, the probes are getting targeted now by the Zerglings, and Serral does actually take a pretty good fight. That is now a grand total of 27 probes. Double Robo facility coming up, so maybe we will see a transition towards Colossi. Serral decides to go Lurker Den together with Infestation Pit, so we are starting to make that transition towards higher tier tech. It's a risky play, though, for the both of them, right? Because you don't really know exactly how much the opponent is investing in additional technology. When you're spending 1,000 minerals and 1,000 gas on things that aren't army units right now, you can very easily lose the plot, but When both of them are doing it around the same time, it should be fine. Okay. Worker-wise, herO's rebuild. Tech-wise, robo facilities at this point are done. More Templar being warped in. Zergling's just trying to chase this very far back. We don't have any robo bays yet. I would really like to see one of those, but herO doesn't know if he can really afford it. Bunch of zealots here blow up on Banes. More Lingbane Hydra in the top left-hand corner. There is a stasis ward! And that stasis is gonna make this attack a lot easier to defend. Recall towards this direction into Banelings. Recalling into Banelings is dangerous! The stasis ward sets off again! My god! Those stasis wards have been so critical. I can't believe herO saves it once more so closely. Whew, okay. Well, Serral's had enough. No more luck. He wants to go into lurkers. Keep in mind, these are lair tech lurkers. They don't have all those late game upgrades. Probes have run away. Okay. Stalkers in the meantime over here, forced to storm themselves. But the Zerglings will go down. God, okay. This is where herO gets to do a lot more of that clutch micro. And this is what I was trying to say at the beginning of this game. herO's very dangerous in these sort of super chaotic, super difficult to predict type of situation. This is where, in my mind, he is miles ahead of max specs. Lurker Den now researching its ranged upgrade. Adrenal glands coming up. This is not a fight that herO really needs to be taking over here. Maybe it can be fine, but the lurkers are dangerous, man. Although, to be fair, this is Lairtech lurkers. They don't have their late game upgrades yet. Bunch of Banelings in the far top left, though. Protoss is currently busy microing their Stalkers, and Serral finally gets the job done with one of those Baneling roll-bys. In the meantime, though, the fight at the front, Immortals are being targeted. Serral trying to see if he can get rid of those. So maybe the lurkers can achieve a little bit more. Seismic Spine just a few minutes, or a couple seconds really, away right now from finishing up. Lurkers decide to burrow. Stalkers trying to blink on top of all of this. He storms it down as well. Most of the lurkers are gone, but he doesn't have that much remaining. An ambitious play by herO. Reminds me a little of those Beyond pushes, right? Where he stims into lurkers. Could have been amazing. Ultimately, I don't think it was that great. Queens are now getting close. Zerglings still going to town in the far top left. Workers were not rebuilt for that section of the map. Pro production begins once more right now. Maybe herO should send some of these idle workers all the way towards the top left too. And these units are going to have to make the walk of shame all the way back home. Well, I guess they can fly. The levitation of shame. How beautiful. Okay, so as the dust settles, I am liking this army for Serral better. herO's got a decent force, but his economy is... it's okay. It's not terrible. He's lost so many probes, 46, but he's actually been constantly remaking them. It's just that... Yeah, I mean, given another minute or two, I feel like the Immortals are actually really nice. He is forced to play a more passive style now. Serral's gonna try and use that to his advantage. A couple of the lurkers caught a stasis ward in the middle of the map. Lurkers and Storm, man. Immortals? Do we have detection? Well, Oracle goes down. A little bit too ambitious on that one. Revelation only lasts a very limited amount of time. Another Storm, though, is gonna get rid of some of those Lings. Lings now are at +2 with Adrenal, so they do have the attack speed improvement. Immortals, though? Yeah, we're really starting to plow through a lot of these units. One of them goes down, but it killed, like, I don't know, 4 lurkers or so by itself. One lurker going around the site. I think herO can hold himself here, but it's starting to be very difficult. Lurker distracting. Serral now using this as an opportunity to strike at the natural expansion as herO used what seems to be the all army hotkey to move his army towards his 4th base. And that is what Serral has been looking for. A recall in this direction right now is dangerous. The High Templar in the front. The High Templar go down. Another Immortal falls as well, man. Recalling into any army is so dangerous. Now herO has to pull the trigger. He decides to jump onto this army. Does he have enough to break through all of it? A couple of the units still come from the north because they could not fit inside of the circle. Zergling run by right now, reinforcing the top left-hand corner. God, Serral. Just so lethal. GG gets cold. Serral obtains another point. Yeah, Serral's so good that it's almost a bit boring. In a very weird way. It becomes, like, when you win everything for, like, the better part of 6 years, at some point it does become almost a little bit boring. I've seen quite a few players actually say that. It's interesting. As far as conventional sports go, I only ever really follow Formula 1. And there was a season very recently. Not the 2024 season, but the one before that. That was just so incredibly dominant that it really only became interesting to figure out who was going to get second place that year. Because Max and Red Bull were just so far ahead of the pack. 2024 turned out to be much, much better than that. But 2023 was just straight up, who's going to get second place. And Serral's got a very similar aura around him too. It's funny, actually. I always think the parallel is quite interesting because people will make the argument in StarCraft that, like, one race is overpowered compared to the next. In Formula 1, people will do very similar things too, where they're like, no, it's not the driver, it's the car. Like, the car is so much better. You can balance wine in a very similar sense too. To be fair, they did have a better car. And to be fair, Serral and Zerg have been overpowered at times. Alright, adepts are going down. Finally, one slips through the crack. Or cracks, rather. Adept shades into the main. Again, just not really what you're hoping for. Maybe he can snipe a few drones from the high ground? Yeah. 3 adepts for 8 lings, and 1 drone is pretty awful. There's already a spore crawler in the middle line too. herO decides to go back home. Okay. A drone just spawned, so I guess that's nice. Twilight Council again. I kind of get the sentiment though, because we very regularly see Zerg players mess up the early game. I cast games every week, right? For example, Protoss versus Zerg, where Zerg just loses like 24 workers by like minute 8. And you're like, okay, well, that's sloppy. Just play like StarCraft has been something that players have been saying for years now. And there really is a kernel of truth. Yeah, just don't make mistakes, man. It's easy. Like, just if you try to not die and win instead, then you will win more games. It's that obvious. Just win. Okay, it's gonna be Glaives. Serral has an Overlord on it, because obviously he's got... Glaive starts up, there's already an Overlord right on top of it. Now, Serral can't see that this is going to be Glaive to depths, but he does see the lack of a Forge here, which already is quite telling. Normally those two get built side by side. There is a proxy gate though, and despite having a really nice lead in this series and defending pretty much perfectly, Serral does need to bring way more units to defend a push like this. He's still droning. He needs to stop. Serral's actually getting carried away. I think he needs to get like 50-something workers. 66 is way too many. He starts up 1 roach right now. Okay. You know what? This doesn't happen very often, but it looks like herO has managed to catch his opponent off guard. He decides to chop out straight up. Okay. Next up, we find ourselves on Ultra Love. herO going for a good old Glaive Adept all-in. Something that we see quite frequently. It's a bit unpopular right now at the highest level, mostly because a lot of players are favoring that late game approach. Glaive Adept is very committed. If you don't deal critical damage, you will generally lose the game like 5 minutes later. Just because the Adepts are not very useful going into the rest of the match. But apparently herO used it to catch Serral off guard a little bit. Okay. A misread. A misread. I actually thought he had the perfect information there because he didn't see the Forge. He did see a couple of Chronos too. I mean, the problem is obviously with the Twilight Council, you cannot see whether or not it's Blink, Charge, or Glaive Adept. It's not like a Stargate where you can see, hey, there's a Void Ray building, or like, hey, There's an Oracle coming up right now. I'm actually not sure if I like that, to be honest. I've wondered in the past whether or not they should remove that animation. It's a bit silly. So in the Twilight Council, you can see that something's researching. The Cybercore, you can see that something's researching. And all of the Zerg structures, you can see that something's researching. But you can't tell whether or not the larva is going to become a Hydralisk or an Ultralisk. I always found it a little weird that the Stargate can give you all the perfect information. Why does only this... I mean, it looks cool. I feel like the reason why that is the case is because it looks cool. But it really doesn't need to have that. Anyhow. A win is a win. Maybe a bit of a trick. Some people will call that cheese. Gotta bring some variety in a series, right? I don't disagree. Okay, so Ultra Love, another nice macro map across the board, although you can certainly go for something more aggressive. There's the Force and the Forge in the Twilight Council again. Oh. Alright. Don't know why we shot at the Overlord. That is the type of game, though, where mentally you can start struggling a little bit, right? So, obviously, this is a long series. You lose one of those games? Whatever. You lose two of those games. That can start kind of gnawing at you a bit. I'm assuming we're just going to go into the good old Blink upgrade again, but it could go for some sort of charge slot variation. I don't hate it. Adepts going in together with the Oracles. Previously, this was held very smoothly. herO actually not getting the upgrade. The herO, we need to go Twilight Council upgrades, dude. We have too much money in the bank. Oh, we're going charge. Okay, we're going charge together with +1. Serral being a bit aggressive with a round of Zerglings 2 over at the third. Third base of Zerg itself is staying alive. Oracles decide to return back home. A charge lot push. It's gonna add on additional gates right now. Yep. This is the type of map where you can actually build like a proxy pretty easily. You could even just wall yourself in over here. But you can build proxy gates. How many gateways are we gonna go for? Gateway number 8 was just planted down. Do we go for a Templar Archives as well? Do we go any Archons? Doesn't look like it. Although he's still harvesting quite a bit of gas. So this is another relatively quote-unquote cheap build, right? Kind of like the one in the previous game. It's one of those like, I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope my opponent isn't prepared kind of strats. The problem is that Zealots aren't very microable. Usually the micro involves choosing when they fight and then attack moving. Kind of like every Zerg army. Well, maybe not late game armies, but in the early and mid game, a lot of the Zerg micro comes down to choosing the fight location and then attack moving. Zealots are very similar in that department. Serral's still making a big round of drones. Being very happy with the droning in this series. Wants to go Roach Hydra, it seems. Roach Hydra will definitely beat Zealots. Question is he going to be able to counter them in time? Double Robo on the back of this. Okay. Here go the Zealots. There's a Stasis Ward going down too. A lot of Roaches are on the production tab. Queens are coming up as well. Drones are pulled away from their mineral lines. And it looks like herO managed to catch Serral off guard 2 games back to back. Adept Shade into the main base. Against the most conventional builds, Serral seems pretty much unstoppable. But apparently, these tricksy builds can definitely catch him off guard. All of these builds, by the way, have relatively easy counters. Most of them involve just droning a little less. So if you stop droning a couple workers early, and then you make a few extra roaches, these fights tend to look way different. But now herO, okay, gets himself a really nice lead. This is not the type of game, I don't think, where Serral's gonna tap out. Doesn't look like this is the type of game where he's just gonna go ahead and tap out, because he still has a decent economy. But herO now has taken the economical advantage. He's got those double robos, right? Going into a robo bay too. Another big Zealot group. He might not want to sacrifice all of these, to be honest. Oh, he decides to attack move with them again. I don't know if I like that. That's going to be like 20 supply down the drain for no reason. Gets one more drone. Roach is running away, but at least it's not being... Yeah, I guess the Roach... I mean, it's going to get sniped, but it also distracts a good chunk of Protoss. Okay. There is certainly a moment, though, where you want to stop being the aggressor and you want to, like, prepare for the next follow-up attack. So actually, herO was preparing for a overproduction of roaches. Generally, what Zerg players do against this sort of thing is overproduce roaches and then counterattack. So you overproduce roaches, shut down the zealots, and then go across the map. These zealots right now are just here to delay that attack as long as possible, so herO can get as many immortals out as he can. And he's still going to town. These traits are not terrible for him, though. Yeah, he's losing a lot of zealots, but it also makes the follow-up attack with roaches pretty much nullified. I don't think Serral is going to be able to go for it anymore. This has been like a couple minutes now of him trying to play ping pong with a bunch of roaches or with a bunch of zealots that are going all the way around. So 31 drones in total. It was not cheap. That was not a cheap fight for herO by any stretch of the imagination. And needs to be careful that he does not throw away too much stuff. Serral right now goes in for a scout. Trying to see what the follow-up is going to be. He will soon see that we have a little Robo Bay doing its little Robo Bay dance. Although, actually, he decides to... Well, he just sees the Colossus. I guess that also works. Anyways, he now knows what the follow-up is going to be, and it will be a good old mass Robo style. So we have Immortals, we have Colossi, we have Disruptors. We're going to get a Prism, I'm sure. Observers. We're going to build everything. And this is a really lovely army against what Serral currently has. With this type of economy here, Zerg does not really have the opportunity to go into a late-game army. So, yeah, Serral is forced to go into Ravagers. He's going to try and hold on with Roach or Ravager instead of going into Hydra, Lurker, Viper. He needs more time, and he isn't going to be given that much. Rock Tower is going to get destroyed. It's going to delay any sort of incoming attack by a little bit. More rocks that can be destroyed. Fifth Nexus starts up. Fourth Nexus, actually, sorry, starts up. Obviously, Protoss needs to be careful that they don't run out of money. But look at this Protoss army right now compared to that of the Zerg. Serral trying to see if he can get a wraparound, though. Disruptors are kind of leaning towards the back of this army. Keep in mind that, well, Disruptors no longer one-shot roaches. They can still deal a tremendous amount of damage, though. Serral taps out, and herO gets another point on the board. It looks like we've got ourselves a series. At the end of game number 2, I was starting to be a little bit concerned for a 5-0. Because it just seemed like herO was just getting cut off at every corner, and he was just not really... Yeah, he was not really leading in any way. He wasn't playing poorly, necessarily. It's just that Serral was playing better in every pillar of StarCraft. Now we're playing a proper strategy game, though. This is not just two titans of macro hitting each other in the face, because evidently Serral is the superior player in that department. But herO has got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and it looks like he has not forgotten how to play the mid game. So once more, we're gonna go and start off with a start gate. I'm assuming we'll go into a good old Oracle, but he could go into Void Race. So the previous 2 games, he caught Serral off guard with a Twilight Council push. So in the game on El Dorado, he went for Mass Adept. In the previous one, on Ultra Love, he decided to go into Mass Zealot. What do we do now? I feel like the previous one was actually much better too for herO. Like the one on El Dorado, Serral just didn't see it. He decided to tap out, fair enough. But the previous game was a very skillful execution by herO. Not just him doing like a random all-in. He knew exactly how to play that out, and he played it pretty much as good as he could have. I don't think he really could have had much more. Maybe he overextended a little bit with some of the Zealots at some point, but he bought so much time that any Roach counterattack was essentially nullified. A really, really good game. Now, we have an Oracle. It's gonna get the energy immediately. No second Stargate unit. Instead, we're gonna go for a 353rd Nexus, although it's actually... I don't know why it's late. This one's actually a bit late, considering it's only a single gateway and a single Stargate unit. This has been like the new move by herO, man. He knows that at this point, when he first gets across, it's always going to be an Overlord morphing in from that larva. Yeah. It's a little sad you have to settle for larva snipes. Just a little cocoon that is morphing into something, but it's not bad. Twilight Council together with a Forge again. Single Stargate unit this time. Just one. Little dangerous. There's definitely a lot of attacks that Zerg could go for here, especially on Whispers of Gold. There's a lot of easy marches that Zerg can do. All the way across, especially with queens. Serral just going into a good old lair. A Roach Warren, and then also an Evolution Chamber. Okay. Such a fun series so far. Yeah. I want to see more of those proper late games, but I don't think herO really wants to go ahead and play more of it. Serral will probably be down. But I don't believe herO is going to want to play a long late game, like the ones that we saw in game number 1 and 2. Again, it just does not seem to be where you can really... It's funny, because I've casted a lot of herO games lately where he is winning at that phase in the game in particular. Especially herO seems to be enjoying that right now. But he's forced to shake it up. It changes the entire dynamic of the matchup, though. So... in a ordinary, quote-unquote ordinary, say we have like the number 8 versus the number 9 in the world going up against each other. Those are just random numbers. But say we have a Zerg and a Protoss right around that ranking. Most of the time this matchup comes down to Zerg players trying to catch the Protoss player before the late game. So they're being aggressive, they're trying to prevent playing that late game. Now, against Serral, so we have like the number 1 and then I think herO's like the number 3 or so in the world, number 4 in the world, something along those lines. The whole dynamic is flipped. It seems like now herO is the one trying to prevent playing the late game against Serral. So Serral can once again do that thing that he likes to do and just play defensively. It changes the nature of the matchup a bit. Although, to be fair, this is something he's been doing for a long time. Now, this is just good old Blink. He did add on an additional Oracle as well. I like the additional Oracle. 2 additional Oracles, by the way. Gonna micro that. Loses one of the flying units here. 7 gates in total. Just good old Blink. And I'm assuming we're gonna build up a 4th Nexus in a moment too, because already this has sort of been shut down. Serral also thinking about a 4th Nexus, decides to send a bunch of Zerglings in that direction and see if there's already a base building. Upon seeing that there is no expansion here though, he will continue building up defenses. +1 melee finishing is a big one. Hydra then also coming up. Straight into a hive. So this is a 7-minute hive. Could just be for adrenal glands. I don't think he wants to afford a lurker den here, although he could. It's just very expensive. He doesn't really have that much money. Oracle gets rebuilt. I love that. I think oracles are too good to not have. 4th Nexus coming up in the meantime on the left side, and Zerglings do find it. Activate the Pulsar Beam, don't lose the expansion. In the meantime, though, there are Stalkers going to town, but the Nexus was cancelled. And that is not good for herO. Lurker Den now gets planted down. Yeah, upon sniping that base, Serral's like, yo, perfect. I can get away with it now. Needs to get some more gas going. He would like to have double gas taken at this 4th base, but he doesn't have the amount of drones for it, so he decides to just make 1 additional gas geyser. That does mean, though, that he's in a bit of a vulnerable position right now. Until those lurkers get their ranged upgrade, Serral is going to be in some trouble. So the Stalkers are trying to see if they can get some damage in. herO dancing forward. He doesn't know about the lurker transition. As soon as lurkers hit the battlefield, these Stalkers need to go home. But it's still a little while away until those lurkers really are scary. Oh, Corrosive Ball does connect. +2. Just about to finish up here for Protoss. Stasis Ward gets planted. Hydra's now also joining in. That'll also reveal the lurker surprise, though. A couple units over here getting targeted down. Stalkers over here also take quite a beating there from those +1 lings. Okay, I think Serral's stable. Yeah, I think he's managed to stabilize, and that is going to be when he decides to add on 1 more gas geyser here at the bottom of the bases. Lurker Den now halfway done with its seismic spines. That's the lurker ranged upgrade. Finally, we see charge. Super late charge. And now tech-wise, I am liking this much more for Zerg than I do for Protoss. The age of the Stalker is almost over. And herO doesn't really have a replacement yet. Okay. So we have Hydra Lurker Ling. Queens for support as well. Revelation can obviously still be used to snipe down individual lurkers, but this is becoming a lot more dangerous. I don't think you can really do this anymore, no. Okay, so herO decides to go into a double robo facility with both of them over at the 4th base. I don't like that positioning, if I'm being honest. I feel like this is very easy to snipe. No units in the wall off. So immediately, yeah, Serral seems to be abusing the fact that herO is very happy using the F2 move, right? So he uses the F2, the all army hotkey, quite a bit. And Serral is really making use of that throughout this series already. Now once more. Yep, he forced a recall. All the Stalkers are up north. Robo facilities over here at the 4th are just gonna get destroyed. And this is absolutely terrible for Protoss. Now we're playing Stalker Zealot against Hydra Lurker Ling. Soon to be fully upgraded Hydra Lurker Ling. It is just not an army you can really win against with early game units. Like, this is late game Zerg versus early game Protoss. Adrenal Glands finishing. 40% attack speed for Zerglings. It's big. Serral is quite split up. Basically, right now, herO's best chance is crossing his fingers and hoping Zerg is not paying attention. He just lost his last Oracle. He does not have any Robo Facility. He does not have any Observer. So his only detection right now is coming from that Revelation that's wearing off, and then from Photon Cannons. GG gets called. Serral dominates the next game. Okay. It's taken some time, but we have made our way to match point for Serral. The map is Ley Lines. So far in straight-up games, I am liking what Serral does a lot. But strategically, herO is playing a better match, a better series. He's been taking a lot of chances, and it's been working out quite well here for the Protoss player across the board. Now, there is a finite amount of tricks that you can play, though. So if you want to win 5 maps... yeah, you can do an Adept all-in. Yeah, you could do a Zealot push, right? There are quite a few attacks that you can go for. But if we think about the different Protoss all-ins in the form of tier lists, right? So you imagine like every strategy in a tier list. I would say that all of the 2-base and 3-base all-ins you can go for are like B tier at best at this level. So it's never going to be... it's never going to be the most reliable way to win. Yeah, it can work out, but it's likely not going to work out once. Like, it's likely not going to work out more than once. So, unless herO has more tricks up his sleeves, or he feels like he can do something that, I don't know, Serral has a weakness against, I do think across the board he needs to start playing games as well where he wins in just a straight up fashion. That's where best of 9s are also very dangerous, I think. Yeah, I know there's a lot of esports out there and a lot of competition in general where the default is best of 1s in early rounds. I don't like that very much. At least not if your goal is to have the best players win, right? If you're playing best of 1s in StarCraft 2, I mean, cheese would be way more powerful. Oracle swoops in, gets a bit of damage done. Twilight Council again. No Forge, so we'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what this is going to be. He did the same thing when he went for the Adept and the Zealot all-in. More Adepts are getting warped in. I'm assuming we're gonna go Glaives. Could be Glaives. Doesn't have to be. Third Nexus, though. Once more building at a normal time. Yeah, it's a bit of a tough series, I think, across the board so far for herO. Yeah, it's gonna be Glaives. So we're once more gonna try and do a quick trick. This is a little bit of I feel like this is the play of somebody who's feeling pretty demoralized. It's one of those moves that can work out wonderfully, but also you kind of know in the back of your head that this is an all-in, right? It's not quite a cannon rush. It's not quite like a proxy 4 gate or something like that, but it's still something the opponent, quote-unquote, should be able to defend. It's just that it's working quite nicely so far because it's a very uncommon build, and therefore Serral's not really anticipating it. But it is a strategy that should be defendable quite easily too for Zerg. The problem is that Zerg is very drone heavy right now. In order to win in the late game, Zerg needs to have a good early and mid game. So Serral's very happy on the droning. And so far, he's once more going very far. He needs to stop droning. Honestly, I feel like he needed to stop droning a few workers ago already. Here go the Glaive to Depths. This is almost a carbon copy of El Dorado. Glaives is finishing up right now. Oh my lord, I didn't even see that. We had a massive stasis ward over at the third base. That means that Serral's economy is trash right now in the most important seconds of this game. Yeah, I think he's done it again. I mean, this is a full wall. This is a full wall. Serral actually locking himself in, trying to see if he can prevent the Protoss from getting into his bases. Roaches are coming right now. Yep, again, decides to seal the Protoss player out. But there's so many Adepts now that they're just straight up winning the fight against Roaches, supposed to be their natural enemy. Drones running away. I mean, so far, the crisis management here from Serral has been superb. He has only lost 2 drones, and he's lost those to the Adepts, but now the Adepts are, or to the Oracles rather, now the Adepts are thinking about shading in. herO saying, yo, what about I just kill your hatchery? It's a dangerous move. I don't know if I agree with it. Once more Evo Chamber seals the deal, and this is starting to look a little bit dicey right now for our Protoss player from Korea. I think it's still okay. I still think he's leading. He needs to kill this base. There is a 4th on the back of it too. Serral can continue mining as soon as his aggression's done. I think you kind of need to trade out these Adepts onto something a little more cost efficient though. He's hoping to snipe 2 bases with them? Wow. Sometimes you may not have the right units, but you've got the right numbers. herO gets the job done again. Lovely game right there by herO. I think Serral's starting to be a little bit tilted. If I was Serral here, you die to a Twilight push 3 times. Like, that is not supposed to happen. Like, everybody can make a mistake, right? Especially when you're going up against top-ranked players. Obviously, herO's execution of these Adept pushes is crisp. It can happen, right? It can happen. But to lose to an Adept push twice, and then a Zealot attack as well, just good old Twilight early game pushes, those are not games that you are supposed to win against Serral. Quote unquote supposed to win. I mean, herO now, in my mind, has to keep doing this. I don't think he really has much of another choice. I think he's gonna try and do the exact same thing again. Alternatively, he can try and play macro from here. I mean, there's no way he's gonna win 4 games, right? There's no way he's gonna win 4 games with a Twilight all-in, is he? We haven't seen Archon drops yet. We haven't seen any Dark Templar. There are still some cheeky builds out there that herO could deploy. I don't think Serral is a tilter, though, across the board. There are some players out there that get very emotional when they're playing a series like that and they don't play quite up to their own standard. Like, I'm very good at trash talking myself. I'm really good at trash talking myself. It's one of my many talents. Really good at making myself, in my own head, sound like an idiot. I don't think Serral so much has that. But I can imagine you can start tilting just a bit. You can start being just a little bit frustrated. Maybe now you stop droning a little too early. So really, just to clarify again, what Serral needed to do in those couple of games that we've seen now, those 3 games that we've seen, is just stop droning earlier. Whether the number is 60 workers or 58 or 52, it doesn't really matter. But he needs to stop droning earlier and start making units sooner. The reason why he's not doing it is because he's assuming that it's going to be a blink follow-up. And against the blink follow-up, you need to get that economy going fast. Because otherwise you just lose against the endless number of Stalkers. Okay, looks like we're gonna go Stalkers again. I really don't like that herO's building these structures together every time. It's so predictable. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, every time we've seen herO go for an all-in, he has skipped the Forge, and every time he's not gone for an all-in, he's built the Forge right next to the Twilight Council. So I'm assuming this is going to be +1 together with Blink. Serral hasn't seen it, so I guess it doesn't matter that much. But if I was Serral here, you could get a little glimpse. Maybe around the Zergling over here, maybe you could get a little glimpse of it. Maybe you should do a bit of variety now, though. Although then he probably wants to get scouted, so... In this instance, I don't think he wants to get scouted. Yeah, it's going to be Blink. It's going to be Blink together with +1. These are easy tendencies to figure out. I think if you want to play this, you should probably put the Forge over here and, like, the Twilight Council over there. Although he knew there was an Overlord in the corner, so I guess he just wanted to hide the both of them. Anyways, Robo Bay. Coming up right now for herO. So this is a quick Robo Bay. Looks like this is going to be some sort of Stalker Colossus shenanigans. Roaches alone beat it. Serral going into +1 melee, though. Expecting good old... well, good old Blinky boys again. Gases do fire up over at the 3rd Nexus. That is something Serral will be taking note of. But I think if you're Serral here, you're probably pretty happy it's not a Twilight Council all-in. It's not a Glaive to Depth push. It is not a Zealot all-in. It is just... Ooh, it is a good old macro game so far. Well, Serral wants to see if he can end this series in the same way that he started it. He doesn't know if this is going to be Skytos, like straight up. It'd be a bit weird, but it's technically a possibility. When he knows that this is not going to be, well, Corruptors that he needs, he will likely make a round of Mutas again. This is what he did in the very first game of the series, and it worked out wonderfully at the time. That was on Neon Violet Square, a very different map than Amygdala. Still though, this map is pretty large, so you can hide units all over the place. This is a vulnerable moment here, though, for herO. If he could scout this sort of thing out, it would be huge, but that's exactly why Serral is being aggressive with Zerglings, just to try and keep this army pinned back. This should just be good old Stalker Colossus here for herO, which is, in my mind, a super old-school unit composition. This is like the very first unit composition that Protoss players in StarCraft 2 ever started doing. Just good old Stalkers and Colossi. It's good against everything, reasonably well. Okay, so how many Mutas can we afford? Is he already going to make them? Because there is this awkward moment where you can get Mutas out. He's trying to see if he can... Okay, good recall. Could have been huge. Only loses 1 Stalker, I believe. Yeah, Serral actually a little afraid of making Mutas here. Because yeah, you can make Mutas and deal damage on the other side of the map. But you might just die to the 3-base push here from herO. Okay. Piggy bank gets smashed. 7 Mutas go up. 9 Mutas now come up. Is he now going to go into Ravagers? Or is he going to double down on this? No, I think it's just going to be 1 bunch of Mutas and then everything back to base defense. The creep spread is actually kind of lackluster. Those Oracles have been very annoying. And herO is actually going to be able to get pretty close to that 3rd base here of the Zerg. Now, this is exactly what we've seen in game number 1, although this time around it's with Colossi in the mix. Serral decides to jump this army, gets one of the Colossus separated from the pack, and kills it. Woo! What a little hit squad. Middle of the map. They had the beast in their sights, and they just gunned it down within seconds. In the meantime, the Mutas are flapping their little wings towards the other side of the map. Big warp in over here immediately. That's nice and all. No targeting by Serral, sadly, by him for any of those additional probes. Yeah, he believes he's got enough here to just keep all of this occupied. He was busy dancing on the other side. No sentry in the mix anywhere. Phoenix is coming up too, and those Mutas are not as effective as I thought they were going to be. Once more, though, we have the Colossi in the back. Roaches and Zerglings trying to see if they can get the wrap around. herO turns his army perfectly. Colossi can now march a little bit closer to the Stalkers. This Protoss army, though, is not really looking that dicey, or like not strong anymore, although there might just barely be enough. Okay, that was really nice. herO actually gets a bunch of Banelings detonated onto his army just like that. Muta's still going to town, but more drones have gone down. In the meantime, over at that 3rd of Serral, who's now evacuating the base altogether. Yeah, the mutas have not been as effective as they should have been. Miscontrol right there by Serral, and he may very well end up paying the price. He's still getting a bit of value, though. I did see a Phoenix on production, but I guess the Phoenix got denied? Okay, still, Colossi exposed. One of them takes a big volley of acid. Mutas swoop back in. There is a single photon cannon now, but they can get rid of that really easily. Looks like we're going to target the photon cannon. Basics actually still around. One of the Colossi has gone down. Roach is just fighting the Archon straight up. Stalkers kind of derping against each other. This base is so low in hit points. Serral's remaking another base as well. Mutas swoop back into the natural expansion. The Colossus runs away just barely in the nick of time. Queens are trying to make their way forward as well, but they don't quite find the area that they want to engage in. Mutas swoop on over towards the third, as there are a few Stalkers trying to chase all of it down. The hatchery lives, but not for much longer, as Serral decides to evacuate this location once more. In the meantime, though, probes have fallen. 17 workers now. Initially, those mutas, not that useful. Seems like the follow-up defense here for herO has not been that great. He's now going into disruptors. I think he should have been making a couple of phoenixes. Yeah, he made one and then stopped. It's a bit sloppy. He decided to just go back home after killing the base. Okay. As the dust settles, I like this position way better for Serral. Because ultimately, Serral replaced the base that he was going to lose. He bought plenty of time to get this hatchery finished up. It's a hatchery as well over at the golden mineral line, just to rub a little bit more salt in the wound. herO did not remake a lot of workers, he did not add on a fourth nexus, and he did not defend his mineral lines. So now ultimately he's finding himself with 2 base economy against a Zerg who's on 4 hatch, a Zerg player who's maxed out, who fired up the +2 melee during all of it. He's going into a hive right now. We'll probably see a lurker then. herO needs to get a move on fast. Now, he does have 2 disruptors, and they can certainly get some damage in. More probes are falling, but there's so many banelings available right now. One of the disruptors does get a decent Nova, but all of the banelings are already starting to hunt down whatever they can hit. Nice dodging right there by Serral onto that second disruptor. They're a little bit farther forward too. One of them goes down. More banelings going around the back. Mutas still shooting down probes. And this is starting to look like Serral can just rinse and repeat. He can remax this very easily if he wants to. herO is running away from an army that he might not be able to stop. Probes are falling over at the third base. herO has now got 18 workers, 16 workers, 15. Soon he will be at a number that is lower than the starting worker count. Hive coming up for Serral, really just trying to play this super safe. We had a Nova coming in from the right. Disruptor goes down as well. And there it is. Serral obtains the victory over herO. And he wins the Masters Coliseum 8, 5-3.